You've worked with Rizzi obviously a long time, known him a long time. Like, what's your favorite thing about working with him? Like, just who he is as a person.
My favorite thing is how competitive he is, but also how he's able to make it fun, and everything that we do. You know, when we've done all the different special teams, we have different routine and some things that we do that's competitive with the players, but it makes it fun for those guys. We'll put up, we keep different stats of things, and we'll put up their pictures in there, and some of them are, game action photos, or some of them are, maybe it was a funny photo that I was able to find on social media or something like that. So we have a great time in there, so that's my favorite thing, how competitive is, how much fun we have while we're competing.
Rizzi said that during the timeout before the blocked field goal, y'all called it just so the linemen could get their wind and maybe be fresher for the rush. Was there anything else that took place during that timeout in terms of technique or the scheme that might have contributed to that block?
No, there was probably a reminder or two of exactly what we wanted to execute on that scheme, and so I thought it was really good, and it allowed those guys to, like Riz said, get their breath on them. I mean, the one thing about blocking a field goal from the inside is the ball's off in 1.3 seconds, and so you got a 320-pound man standing in front of you, and you're trying to do your best to be able to knock him back and try to get like 2 yards over the line of scrimmage and then get your hands up, so it's a physical thing that's got to happen in a hurry.
Riz, one thing you mentioned, he went to that game wanting to be aggressive on that first fourth down. Obviously he didn't get it, but is that kind of his nature a little bit? He's a little bit more aggressive than maybe what we've seen. He just hasn't been in the position to say, hey, let's go for it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's an educated aggressiveness. We're not going to be reckless and go and do things that are going to hurt the team. But when you get a chance to go down on that first drive, and like we talked about, we want to be aggressive, go set the tone for what we wanted to do, and you get a chance to show your players, hey, I'm going to do what I said I did, and I think he took advantage of it. And you know what? That time it didn't work. We didn't get it there, but we were able to force punt, get the ball right back, and next time it'll work for us. And I think that's a huge thing, that your players know that when you say something, they can believe you and you're going to do what they told you that you were going to do all week. And I think that goes a lot more than actually the result that happens on the field sometimes.
Along those same lines, a lot of players who don't play special teams or don't play a lot said they still had a good relationship with him, that he goes out of his way to have a relationship with everybody on the team. Could you see how that made the transition easier because he had a feel for everybody on the roster?
For sure. I definitely think that makes a big difference. And even the guys who don't play special teams, for example, let's take Derek Carr, right, or Demario Davis. There's certain situations that come up in the game that they have to be in special team meeting for, right? Like, the run-on field goal at the end of the half or the end of the game. Well, the whole offense has to understand how that play is going to work and how the field goal team is going to come out. And then from a defensive perspective, guys, Demario and Tyron, those guys have to understand what we're going to do when our defense is on the field and how we're going to get our field goal block situated. So there's a part that those guys are in, so it's not like they've never been in a meeting. They're just not in there as often when you're the special teams coach. But for sure, and I think that's important. I mean, this is a relationship business, right? And I think it's really important, whether you're the head coach or you're the assistant special teams coach, you want to have a relationship with the players. You want them to know that you care about them, and it's more than just football. And, I love the fact of that, and I think that's one of the things, when we got here, I think that's been a culture that was set from our ownership, from Mrs. Benson, from Mickey. Like, in training camp, some of you guys have seen, like, my kids have been at training camp practices, and they get to hang out, and, like, they see me as dad, not just as football coach. So I think all those things are really, really important in the relationship you build with your players.
How would it have worked if the Falcons had tried to kick that field goal? Would the guys on the field have stayed, or would you have substituted? Like, what's the process there?
Yeah, so I think the process is each team's different. For us, we have two situations. One, we could have kept our defense out there on the field, depending on how much time there is. But what we want to do is we want to make the offense have to execute. So everybody's running off, and you don't want to – the last thing you ever want to do is get a penalty, right? I mean, there was a game that ended last year where on a run-on field goal situation, the kicker missed it, and the defense had 12 guys on the field, and they got a re-kick, and then they win the game on it, right? So that's the last thing you ever want to have is a penalty in that situation. So we practice that every week, and you get, you start it in training camp, and then you get one rep at it every week. And whenever there's a situation on film, we try to show it to the guys in the meeting and go through it. But there's a lot of situations like that come up in special teams that you guys have to be prepared for. And you may practice it once a week or once every couple of weeks, but they got to be able to execute when it comes up. All set?
Thanks,
All right, appreciate you guys.
Thanks, guys.